Well, hey everybody, it's Sandy and welcome back to my channel dedicated to helping you advocate for your own health one topic at a time. So today I have a product review, guys. I'm going to be talking about the All Day Glove by Stogo. The All Day Glove uses Polygene's ViralOff Technology, and if you want to see my full review, just keep watching. So Stogo stands for Safety to Go. They make masks and gloves using Polygene's ViralOff technology. Now they reached out to me and asked whether I would be interested in reviewing their products. So they did send me a couple different styles of their masks. I'm going to link the review right here that I did on the masks. But today I'm just going to talk about their gloves. So I'm going to talk about the sizing of these gloves, how they feel. I'll put them on and let you see how they look in the different sizes. They did send me 2 different sizes. We'll talk about the pricing, the specs, and all of that. But then I would be remiss if I were to do a review on some kind of an antimicrobial product in the way of gloves if I didn't also discuss the responsible use of gloves given the pandemic. So gloves are kind of a mixed bag given the pandemic, and there's a very fine line between preventing infection and spreading infection when it comes to wearing gloves. So I'm going to talk about that afterwards, but please don't miss that discussion. So first of all, the ViralOff technology, which I have talked about in a couple of other videos. I think the first time I described it was when I reviewed the AeroPec mask, so I'm going to link that review right here. In a nutshell, ViralOff is a technology made by Polygene. It's a product that is put on the fabric. The fabric is finished with it, and it lasts for up to 30 washes, and it reduces microbial load by 99% in 2 hours. It's been tested on various viruses. Now, the gloves come only in black. They retail for $19.99 per pair. They come in 3 different sizes. So they come in a size called extra small, small. Then they come in a size medium, large. And then they come in a size extra large, extra, extra large. Now they sent me the 2 smaller of those. So I have an extra small, small, and I also have a medium large. So I'll show you and should be able to give you a good idea of how the sizing works with these gloves. They are made out of 100% recycled materials. They have a nice smooth fabric. It sort of feels like it's got a little bit of lycra in it. And then on the inside, the fabric is a little bit different. I'm going to try to give you a close-up of that. The inside, it's a little softer fabric. So I'm wondering if you can see that, and try to make the light catch it so you can see that weave. It almost looks like it's felt, but it's not. It's much thinner, much lower pile, but it's very soft. It's almost like a micro fleece on the inside. Now, Polygene's ViralOff is supposed to last for 30 washes. Now, that's according to both Stogo's description on their website and also Polygene's description on its website. That assumes, I think, a gentle wash. I always wash these kinds of products in a delicate's bag on a delicate cycle in cold water. You don't really have to wash things every time when they're designed to be highly antimicrobial. But I also just want to mention that sometimes you see products that are made with Polygene ViralOff and they say, well, it's good for some other arbitrary number of washes. And I really don't know why that is, because if Polygene says that the product is supposed to last for up to 30 washes on the fabric, then it really should. So other than trying to get you to replenish the product sooner, buy more of the product sooner, I don't really know why some of them would have a number that's lower than 30, but suffice it to say that Polygene says that the product lasts for 30 washes. So each pair comes in a package with a cardboard insert that talks about the product and its intended use. Now I'm going to try to insert a picture of their size chart. The sizing on the gloves goes by the circumference of this area of your hand, like the top of the palm or just underneath the fingers. I think that's a good way to measure for gloves, but gloves are like impossible to get right. So if you think face masks are hard to sell to the multitudes of people out there on the market looking for them to be custom fit, wait until you start with gloves. So I kind of think that in the ideal world, the gloves would be sized with first this width, and then based on that width, you'd wear like a small, medium, or large, but then it would have either regular or long or short fingers, right? Because not everybody that's large or small in here is large or small in the length. So it's really tough, and sometimes I just find that with gloves, you have to decide which thing you're going to trade off. So I fit on their size chart, just to give you an idea of how it works. I fit squarely into the small glove when I just look at their size chart and I measure around this part of my hand. So I'm not on the borderline. I should fit into the small. So I'm going to put the small on for you. Now, I do fit into the small, but I'll tell you, I like the way that it fits around the wrist. There's just very little gap in there. They do feel snug. I'm used to that. I actually wear gloves for compression for arthritis, and I actually did a review on the compression gloves that I wear for my arthritis. I'll link that here in case anybody's interested in that as well. So I am used to a feeling of a snug glove, and I actually like that feeling. But what I will say is that this part right here, you can't see where my hand actually is and where the webbing starts on my hand. It's actually a little lower than this, so I sort of feel like I want to be able to push this down. But of course, then I'm tugging on the top of the finger. So the fingers are actually a little bit short for me, and I don't have long fingernails or anything else that would account for that. Now, I don't consider my hands to be short. I certainly don't, long, excuse me. I certainly don't consider my fingers to be long. I kind of feel like I have short, pudgy hands, but for whatever reason, this is the trade-off I'm going to have to work with if I decide to wear the small glove, because it just doesn't come all the way down into that webbing. So sometimes I feel like I want to push it down like that. Other than that, I do like how the glove fits. They have this little grippy material. You might have already seen it when I was showing you, but it's on just the thumb and the index finger, and that's designed so that you can get a little traction. It's also designed so that you can use your electronic devices. Now, I don't find this is so easy to use with my laptop. I do find that it's fine with touch screens, and I'll actually give you a look at that right now. So here's my phone, so let's just tap it until it's time to turn on. Tap it again and open that. Let's see if I can open the screen. Yeah, let's open the calculator. Yeah, occasionally I find I have to do a second tap on something, but for the most part, the grip works really nicely. At first, I sort of instinctively used these 3 fingers because they didn't have this, and of course that didn't work. You do have to use the grip, but I find that it works really well with the phone. Let me give you a look at the medium so that you can decide based on your hand measurements which things you want to trade off. So the medium glove, obviously, as you would expect, it doesn't have that problem with the fingers. This is way down at the webbing. Now I do have a little bit of extra room right here, but I can pull that. You know, that doesn't bother me because I can pull that and that'll pretty much stay. So I actually like the length of the fingers better with the medium. This one's called the medium large. But of course I have a little bit of gapping right here. So you have to decide whether that's going to annoy you. You know, which thing are you going to trade off? This one is not as snug. You see it's a little bit big in here. I do think that if you're going to be planning to use your touch screen a lot, like your phone a lot with these, you might want to go with the snugger fit, because I found that like just a little bit of excess right in here around the thumb was sort of getting hung up on things, and it just is not as easy to be precise with the larger one. That said, for everything else, just living my life, I actually prefer the feel of these. So, you know, the medium, I guess, if you're just sort of using it, you know, on your hands for nothing that's really all that precise. Otherwise, I would go with the smaller one. Now, guys, when Stogo contacted me and told me that they have not only a mask, but also gloves, I decided that I was going to take a look at it, but I would just be remiss if I didn't have a discussion here about the proper use of gloves given a pandemic, or anything else for that matter, not only the pandemic. So I did a video a while back, and bear with me because I was really uncomfortable with the camera way back early when I first started. Not that I'm so great now, but I'm going to link it right here because I talked about whether gloves really help or hurt. There is a really fine line between preventing disease and spreading disease when you wear gloves. Now, a lot of people like me, a lot of doctors, nurses, we don't like the widespread use of gloves because, you know, gloves seem like a really simple thing, but if you don't understand how gloves are used and what they actually do, then you can be inadvertently spreading all kinds of germs all over the place. So those of us in my field tend to have a real preference for frequent and thorough hand washing over just wearing gloves. That said, there are very specific circumstances under which I would wear gloves, and I'm going to talk about that too. So gloves are designed so that you don't drag germs from one place to another. So when I'm working on a patient, I'll have a pair of gloves on while I'm touching that patient. But then as soon as I'm done touching that patient, because now the hands are contaminated or potentially, then I'll take those gloves off, right? And then I'll wash my hands, and before I go touch anybody else, I'll put a new pair of gloves on. So it's just meant that I can't give anything to somebody else, and I can't take something from one person to another or from one place to another. Now, that said, I see all kinds of sloppy use of gloves, even in professional environments. So here's something to think about. If you ever walk into a doctor's office or have a procedure done, you have a doctor, a nurse, a tech, somebody walks in the room already wearing gloves, or somebody puts some gloves on and starts filling out forms with you or asking you some questions and touching the computer screen, opening up cabinets and getting things, and then comes over to work on you. Well, that is actually a breach in the proper use of gloves, because that person is potentially spreading all kinds of things from whatever they've already touched and then going to work on you. And by the way, if you're ever in that situation, don't be afraid to speak up, because that's what advocating for yourself is about. So now that you understand that, I've said in that kind of a situation, would you mind just changing your gloves, putting on a fresh pair of gloves before you do that on me? Or, I noticed that you walked in the room wearing those gloves. I'd feel more comfortable if you put some new gloves on, or something like that. Because gloves are designed so that they protect the person that you're touching, not just you. So the way we see people wearing gloves in a pandemic is sort of assuming that the glove is like a magic shield for them and it'll keep their hands and therefore the rest of them clean. Well, the glove will keep your hand underneath clean. That's true. But now, if I have a gloved hand and I go ahead and touch something dirty, my hand underneath there is clean, but now the glove is not. And after that, it won't behave any differently than if I'm using my hands to go from one task to another, right? So if I touch something that's contaminated, if I, let's say I pump gas, or I'm walking around the grocery store and I touch merchandise and things that other people have touched, and now my gloves are considered dirty. Well, then if I go to the checkout, hand my credit card to somebody, or take bags that somebody has given me, or then go into my car and then go to my house and open doorknobs and things, then I'm spreading whatever I just had on these gloves, and I'm spreading it all over my car and all over my doorknob and in my house. So it kind of defeats the purpose of wearing gloves, unless your whole purpose is that your hands underneath are clean. Yeah, your hands underneath are still going to be relatively clean, but now everything else around you that you've touched is dirty. So if you really want to wear gloves, it is very important that you give some serious thought to what you feel you need the gloves for, in what kinds of situations, and equally important is how those gloves are going to come off in between things, so that you're not spreading microbes everywhere you go. So let's say I decide I'm going to use these for pumping gas. Okay, the gas pump, lots of people are touching that. I always have hand sanitizer in my car. Up until now, I've always used hand sanitizer for this. Maybe I'll try these. I don't know. The important thing to remember when wearing the gloves is that once they're contaminated, everything else they touch is going to be contaminated. So let's say I keep a pair of these in my car, and let's say we start out, they're clean, and I pull up at the gas pump, and now I want to go pump gas. So first of all, I've got to think about everything I'm going to touch before I get my hands dirty. Okay, so once I get these on, they're clean until they get dirty. So maybe I want to take my key out of the ignition. Maybe I want to get my credit card out. Maybe I want to open the gas cap of the car, whatever I want to do. Because once I touch that nozzle, or once I press some buttons on that gas pump, now I'm dirty. Okay, now these are dirty. So at that point, you have to think about when they're going to come off. Okay, because once they're dirty, again, then if I drive home, have my hands on the steering wheel, open up the car door, open up the door to the house, walk around, open up the laundry machine or something like that, everything I've touched at that point is dirty, and you'll have to backtrack and think about everything you need to clean. So I don't want to do any of that. So what I would do is say, I'm only going to need this for the purpose of pumping gas. Then as soon as I'm done pumping gas, I would take these off in a very careful way. Okay, first I take one off, and I would put it down, and then I would take the second one off, hopefully this way, by walking my finger up the inside so that I'm not touching the outside of this glove with this clean hand. Now, there are any number of ways you might find that you can do this. You might find that you can loosen them both up while they're on. Take this one most of the way off, take this one all the way off, drop it, and then drop that. Okay, and now that microbial load isn't going to be reduced by 99% in a moment. It's going to be about 2 hours. So now my hands underneath are clean, relatively clean, and I can touch all kinds of other things. Same thing in the grocery store. Now, I discussed the grocery store in that video I did on gloves, so I don't want to go into too much detail, but again, you're just going to have to think about when you use something like this, when it's on and when it's off. When you put it on and exactly what you touch, and keep track of that, and when it's coming off. Now, I think this grippy stuff on the index finger and the thumb is great. It certainly will work for using your cell phone, but if I've gone and pumped gas and now I want to go touch my phone, or if I'm using this because I'm a commuter on public transportation, right? And I've held onto the rail because I didn't have a seat. And now I just got a seat and I'm going to sit down. Now I'm going to use my phone. You got to think about when you're going to clean your phone or what your phone's going to touch. Is that going in your pocket? Where's that going? So I like these gloves. And I actually will use these gloves, and I will update you guys as I find good uses for them and where I will use them and where I think I won't use them. But what I'm saying here is that it's not just so simple as to walk around wearing these all the time. In fact, I kind of have an issue with them calling them the all-day gloves, because I don't think this is the all-day glove. Okay, if you're going to just put this on all day long and forget about it, you're really going to be spreading a lot of contagion, and you're really not using it any differently than you're using your hands, right? So in that case, you may as well use your hands and wash your hands. At least you know it's time to wash my hands, and you know that you've done that. This is something that I think is like an added layer of safety for environments where you really can't go wash your hands and you really just don't have any other choice but to come into contact with things that are potentially contaminated. So, for example, like I said, public transportation. If I were going to take public transportation, yes, I might put this on. I would probably make sure to wear a face shield so that I couldn't like inadvertently just forget about it and inadvertently touch my face and then remember, oh my gosh, I have these gloves on. So I would be very, very careful not to be touching my face, but that might be a situation where I would wear these for a limited time in the grocery store while I have to touch things that other people have touched. I'm not contaminating them anyway because they're already all have to be considered contaminated. But then these would come off before I check out. Public transportation, these would come off as soon as I'm done. And then I would just be exquisitely careful with what I touch in between while they are on, because that's always a potential of spreading germs that somebody else is going to then encounter. So let me just say that I like this product. I do see some place for it in my life. I see more place for it in the lives of people who are maybe on public transportation, which I'm not. But any number of circumstances where I just can't be in control of the setting and I can't wash my hands, I can really see a place for it. But I would just be remiss if I didn't say that using gloves with something like microbes in mind requires exquisite care and responsibility so that you know exactly what you're using them for, exactly when they're going on, what you're doing while they're on, and exactly when they're coming off and how. Because otherwise, I think it becomes an issue of public responsibility, like a public health issue, where you can really be getting a lot of other people sick and really not protecting yourself any better than if you weren't wearing the gloves at all. So let me know if anybody has any experience with these. Let me know if you try them and how you like them. I do think it's a comfortable product and I think it's a good idea. So let me know if that was helpful. And until next time, be well. Bye-bye.